A family of 3 is seen relaxing by a river in Russia in the movie Be Recapped. Sergei Alyoshkov, the youngest, brags to his mother and older brother about being on top of a tree when abruptly fighter planes from Germany and Russia pass above. The 6-year-old swears he is not afraid and shoots the mother with a slingshot despite the mother's urgent request for her children to swiftly hide in the bushes. Everyone is shocked when he hits the jets and causes them to burst. He turns to look, but his family has vanished. Fearful by the dream, Sergei wakes up and cries for his mother. Someone suddenly knocks on his door. He rushes towards it, thinking it's his mother, but a neighboring lady enters in a panic. She tells him that his mother and brother have passed away and gives gratitude to God for keeping him alive. The little child, who is unable to understand what she is saying, wants to go to a nearby home to wait for his mother. The lady advises him to go since the Grumins had assaulted them, according to her. A group of soldiers suddenly approaches their home. Sergei is forced to escape through a window by the woman, but she is shot and killed before she can follow him. The little 6-year-old is now living alone and is without friends or relatives. Sergei looks back as his whole neighborhood is on fire as he leaves the home. He makes unsuccessful attempts to reach his mother before leaving the area. He eventually finds himself in the midst of the woods after a time of running. Because he is lost, the little child begins to call for his mother to come and retrieve him. Ace spends the night in the forest. The next morning, as enemy forces come his way, we observe him drinking water from a river. Knowing they are dangerous, Sergei runs and hides among the roots of a tree. When a snake approaches, he is scared but says nothing or runs away. The snake scares Sergei less than him deers. Following their meal by the river and departure, the soldiers' leftovers are taken by Sergei nearby, but he stays the night. However, the little lad is worn out at the end of the day. He hasn't eaten properly in 2 days and has been wandering aimlessly. Even when he stumbles and limps, he continues to go on. He eats some wild fruit he finds along the path after seeing them, but just then, he is caught off guard by an explosion that happens behind him. The youngster has vertigo and begins to see someone behind him. He informs the individual he has a weapon and is not afraid even in these dire circumstances as he boldly stands there. He moves ahead with a limp but eventually passes out. 2 soldiers approach him while he sleeps. The action is cut to Commander Kuznetsov waiting for his patrolmen at the Russian army barracks. The little child, who is frail and hurt, is brought in by them. The little youngster opens up and identifies himself when the soldiers say they are on his side. When the youngster shakes hands with the commander, the troops laugh and urge that he identify himself as well. The troops approach the little child with tenderness and surround him. He is forced to consume water and food. Even the cold commander looks after the child. Sergei's wounds are attended to by Katya, a nurse who is also enchanted by him as a person. Because he aspires to be a military when he grows up, the child requests that she draw a tank on his injuries. Even the wounded warriors converse with the child and feel better. The commander's pistol and his badge captivate Sergei. After pulling out the bullets, the commander also responds to the little boy's inquiries and gives him a chance to play with his honorary weapon. Sergei talks about being a soldier and displays the tank that is sketched on his stomach. The youngster is recovering fast. The commander refuses the nurse's request to let Sergei remain with the unit, arguing that it won't be safe. Instead, he wants to place Sergei in an orphanage. All of the troops' leisure time was spent with Sergei. Throughout the day, many people stop over to see him. They also let him use their binoculars while bringing him food that was provided to him from afar by their relatives. One day, a soldier approaches the commander and requests permission for the youngster to remain with the regiment. The troops form a strong bond with the child and consider him to be their own. The burden of the conflict is lifted by his presence. To ensure the boy's protection, the commander is determined about transferring him to the orphanage. The next day, the enemy assaulted, inflicting significant casualties on the men. Sergei is picked up by a car and driven to the orphanage. The commander tells the child the news and presents him with a wooden honorary gun. The child embraces the commander back and says he's worried for his safety. In his hug, the commander melts and alters his mind. Sergei is asked to remain with the troops in his father's place. The soldiers are thrilled to have Sergei stay with them and spend that evening searching for the little boy's small military attire. Sergei is awakened by the commander, who also hands him the clothing. He moves about with them on, seeming to be a genuine soldier. They begin referring to him as their little army child. The Germans assault the unit from the air while the child rushes about. The troops battle the others while swiftly escorting Sergei to safety. The number of troops wounded is rising quickly. Sergei provides water to thirsty troops out of a desire to be helpful. One of them, who has a bandage covering his eyes, requests him to read a letter from his family. Despite not being able to read, the little youngster wants to assist. He grabs the letter and begins fabricating the contents, saying the soldier's cow is secure at home. The others advise the soldier to accept the narrative and laugh when he claims he doesn't own a cow. He reads everyone else's letters in a similar way to lift their spirits. The next scene shows Katya and the commander conversing. Although they do not express their sentiments, the two seem to be drawn to one another. Later, Sergei informs the commander that he is the battalion's orderly and begins addressing himself as such. The youngster then witnesses the destruction of one of the soldiers' stations during the assault. He learns from the commander to remove his hat in honor of the fallen soldier. He requests the commander give him a work the next day and is given the assignment to distribute the letters to the troops. He skillfully completes his assignment and even gets the warriors to dance. The next day, Sergei uses his binoculars to go a bit too far from the base. He is toying with it when he notices a haystack's contents, including a person's leg, moving. He quickly returns to the unit and briefs the men on his discoveries. The troops follow the youngster despite their skepticism. They are informed when they get to the haystack that 2 German agents are hiding there. The spy is lauded for his intelligence once the spies are captured. The next evening, the commander presents Sergei with the adoption paperwork. The child now has him as his legal father. Sergei brings the commander to confess to Katya since he is aware of the commander's emotions for her. The two, however, mistakenly believe she is interested in someone else after seeing her speaking to a different guy. The Germans launch another assault on the facility. This time, Sergei tries his hardest to aid the troops by giving them ammo, but the soldiers at the front line tell him to return inside the shed, since it is too hazardous outdoors. The commander and others are frantic when he arrives at the shed because the phone's connection with the colonel has been severed. The damaged cables are being repaired by a soldier. Sergei pursues the soldier and discovers that he has sustained fatal injuries. He approaches the dead soldier to learn how to repair the wires and then carries it out on his own. More soldiers are summoned once the link reestablishes. All of the lives are saved by the 6-year-old. The commander and Katya are later seen conversing by the river. Finally, the commander tells her how much he loves her and begs her to be Sergei's mother. Before Katya can say anything further, a soldier approaches them and hands the commander a letter stating that they have been sent from the base. Katya is over the moon at this point. The next day, Sergei and all the men depart for their new location. However, they encounter a minefield along the road, which causes several of their cars to be destroyed. Sergei's close friend and the group's orderly perish in the explosion, although the commander is damaged. He sobs while hugging the commander. They go to their new headquarters while carrying the wounded people along with them. When they eventually get at the opposite base, they encounter the general, the commander's boss. He commends the captain for having such a clever child and expresses his own admiration for the youngster's desire. Their division receives a guard's flag the next day, along with the youngster. when the commander hands him his badge, he makes a commitment to rescue his nation. The commander is imprisoned under the ruins after their base is ruthlessly assaulted one night. Sergei begs his father to be saved while sobbing for him. The other troops respond to his request by bringing out the leader. The next day, Sergei approaches a commander who is wounded. He had harmed his hands while attempting to rescue the commander. The youngster is now an indispensable member of the group. He travels everywhere they go in the fight since he has no relatives nearby. The unit is shown relocating to a different base as the film comes to a close. He also traveled to Poland with the army and took part in the Battle of Stalingrad, according to a voice in the background. He is today recognized as the youngest soldier in history, and the world is now hearing the famous tale of his courage. To support the channel, switch on alerts, subscribe for more content like this, and leave a like. I appreciate your attention.